This fruit defies the logic of geography. It possesses the tropical, buttery sweetness of a mango and the aromatic complexity of almond marzipan. Yet it thrives not in the Caribbean, but in the freezing, snow-covered plains of North Dakota and Canada. It looks like a pear, but it grows in clusters like berries. For 400 years, this tree has haunted the edges of horticulture. It was collected by barons, studied by Renaissance scientists, and prized for a flavor profile that puts the modern grocery store pear to shame. Yet, despite its superior flavor and incredible hardiness, you cannot buy it. You will not find it in a supermarket, a farmer's market, or even in most specialized orchards. We are told that modern breeding has given us the best possible versions of our food. But this ghost proves otherwise. This is the story of the Shipova, the Bollwiller pear, Sorbopyrus auricularis. Welcome to Ancestral Yields. If you believe that the best flavors are worth waiting for, and you want to reclaim the lost biodiversity of our past, make sure to like this video and subscribe. To understand how this fruit exists, we must travel back to a time before industrial agriculture, to the era of the Cabinet of Curiosities. The year is 1619, and the setting is the castle gardens of the Barons of Bollwiller in Alsace, France. It was here that the Swiss botanist Johann Bauhin first chronicled a tree that broke the laws of nature. In the wild, plant genera rarely crossbreed. A rose does not pollinate an apple. But in these gardens, a European pear, Pyrus communis, grew alongside a whitebeam, Sorbus aria. The two trees were distant cousins on the evolutionary tree, and they grew close enough to touch. Against the odds, cross-pollination occurred, and a single mutant seed was formed. The resulting tree possessed the broad, woolly leaves of the whitebeam and the fruiting capability of the pear. The Shipova was born. But because it is sterile, it produces no viable seeds. Every single Shipova tree growing on Earth today is a clone of that single accident in Alsace. For the next 200 years, the Shipova was a prized specimen across Europe. It was planted in the gardens of the intelligentsia and the aristocracy, revered for its rarity and its unearthly flavor. It stood as a testament to nature's ability to improvise. It was not a product, it was a treasure. But as the world moved from the Renaissance into the Industrial Revolution, the criteria for what made a fruit valuable began to shift dramatically. The extinction of the Shipova from our diets was not a botanical failure. It was a logistical one. As the 19th century roared into life, the steam engine and the railway transformed agriculture. Fruit production moved from eating what grew in your village to long-distance shipping. The goal was no longer flavor, it was durability. When a Shipova is fully ripe, it is a delicate, aromatic custard encased in a thin skin. If you pack it into a wooden crate and put it on a vibrating train, or a bouncing truck for 300 miles, it arrives as applesauce. The emerging fruit industry needed a pear that could be picked rock hard, green, and tasteless, only to ripen weeks later on a shelf. They found their champion in the Bartlett or Williams pear. On its own roots, a standard Shipova tree is also agonizingly slow to mature. It prioritizes vegetative growth, building a massive, timber-like structure before it even thinks about reproduction. It is not uncommon for a Shipova growing on its own roots to take 10 to 15 years to produce its first fruit. But don't stop watching yet. There's still hope for the home gardener. In a subsistence economy, planting a tree for your grandchildren is a virtue. In a capitalist economy, no commercial orchardist could afford to water, prune, and manage land for a decade and a half with zero revenue. It was mathematically phased out. By abandoning the Shipova, we didn't just lose a unique texture. We walked away from a nutritional profile that modern breeding has largely scrubbed from our diet. The Shipova inherits the best traits of both its parents, creating a synergy that neither possesses alone. The modern commercial pear, such as Bartlett or Anjou, is bred for high fructose and sucrose content, often lacking fiber and density. According to the USDA National Nutrient Database, a standard pear contains roughly 4.3 milligrams of vitamin C per 100 grams, about 3.5 ounces. The Shipova, however, draws from its Sorbus parentage, the Whitebeam. Sorbus berries have been used in folk medicine for their high concentrations of phenolic acids and flavonoids, compounds that act as potent antioxidants. Analysis of Sorbus species reveals vitamin C levels averaging 15 to 20 milligrams per 100 grams, nearly 4 to 5 times that of the common pear. While specific modern lab panels for the Shipova hybrid are rare due to its obscurity, the fruit physically demonstrates retention of these Sorbus traits through its oxidation rate and acidity profile, bridging the gap between a sugary pear and a nutrient-dense berry. Furthermore, the texture tells a nutritional story. That buttery consistency comes from a unique pectin profile inherited from the Sorbus side. Pectin is a soluble fiber that aids in digestion and promotes satiety. Because the Shipova is denser, inheriting the berry DNA of the Whitebeam, it provides a higher satiety index than a watery Bartlett pear. You feel full after eating one. But the real magic is in the aromatics. The distinct marzipan or almond flavor that defines the Shipova comes from trace amounts of benzaldehyde. This compound is common in the seeds of the Rosaceae family, for example, apricot kernels and bitter almonds. But it is rarely integrated safely into the flesh of the fruit itself. In the Shipova, benzaldehyde provides a sensory experience that signals nutrient density. It is a symphony of sweet, acid, and aromatic oils that satisfies the palate in a way that prevents overeating. To truly appreciate this fruit, one must understand its biological anomaly. As mentioned, intergeneric hybrids, crosses between two completely different genera, are incredibly rare in the wild. Taxonomically, it is classified as cross Sorbopyrus auricularis, with the cross before the name denoting its hybrid status. It exhibits what botanists call intermediate morphology. The leaves are not glossy like a pear, but covered in a silver, downy fuzz, a trait directly lifted from the Whitebeam to protect against cold winds and intense sun. This is what allows the tree to thrive in USDA zones 3 and 4, enduring temperatures as low as -40 degrees Fahrenheit. These are climates where a standard European pear would perish. So, how do we bring this ghost back to life? How do we overcome the 15-year curse that killed its commercial viability? The answer lies in the art of grafting. Modern horticulturists have discovered a way to essentially hack the Shipova's biology. By refusing to let it grow on its own roots and instead grafting it onto specific rootstocks, specifically quince or aronia, we can trick the tree. These rootstocks dwarf the Shipova, restricting its vegetative growth and making it produce fruit much earlier. A Shipova grafted onto aronia can begin fruiting in as little as 3 to 5 years, solving the very problem that caused its decline. For the American home gardener, this is the ultimate homestead tree. It is self-fertile, though it yields heavier crops if you plant a conventional pear tree nearby for cross-pollination. It grows comfortably in USDA zones 3 through 9, spanning from the frigid borders of Minnesota down to the heat of the South. Since you cannot plant this from seed due to its sterility, you must track down a grafted sapling from the few nurseries still propagating the clone of the Bollwiller tree. Seek out specialists like One Green World, Rain Tree Nursery, or Trees of Antiquity. These specific growers are the guardians keeping this 400-year-old lineage alive. And they often sell out early in the season because the stock is scarce. When you are ready to plant, give the tree full sun and well-drained soil. Dig a hole twice the width of the root ball. Plant it so the graft union is 2 inches above the soil line, and water deeply. Thanks to its wild genetics, it requires almost no pruning compared to an apple tree, and is remarkably resistant to pear scab. It is the definition of a plant-it-and-forget-it tree, until the fall arrives and the air smells of almonds and honey. But understanding how to plant is only half the battle. The other half is knowing how to handle it. Because the Shipova is so rare, there is almost no modern literature on when to pick it, and many first-time growers ruin their harvest. To harvest effectively, you must ignore the advice given for conventional pears, which are usually picked green. The Shipova can ripen on the tree. Begin monitoring the clusters in late August to mid-September, depending on your latitude. The fruit does not change color dramatically. It stays a yellow-orange with a red blush. The secret is the tilt test. Gently lift the fruit upward. If the stem snaps cleanly from the branch with no resistance, the fruit is ready. If you have to pull, it needs more time. Once harvested, you are on a clock. You have a window of about 2 to 3 weeks if refrigerated, or just a few days at room temperature. For the peak fresh experience, eat the fruit when the flesh is semi-melting, like a firm custard. For preservation, the high pectin content inherited from the Whitebeam makes Shipova exceptional for jams and jellies. Unlike pears, which often require added commercial pectin to set, Shipova puree sets naturally into a thick, spreadable butter that absorbs spices like cinnamon and cardamom, and it perfectly complements the fruit's natural almond notes. The return of the Shipova is about more than just adding a new flavor to your fruit bowl. Growing this tree is a rejection of the fast food mentality that has infiltrated our gardens. It is an investment in a flavor that cannot be industrialized. We lost the Shipova because it was too soft for the railway and too slow for the bank. In a home garden, soft means a melting texture, and slow means a legacy that will outlive you. By planting the mistake of Bollwiller, you are keeping the Renaissance alive and proving that the best things in life cannot be rushed. It is time to make space in the backyard for the impossible, and to taste the history that the world tried to throw away. If you enjoyed this video, give it a like and subscribe. See you in the garden.